Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a bereavement support specialist. And Susan, nice to see you here.
So nice to see you, Lisa, and thank you for that welcome. I'm Susan Capurso. I'm an end of life doula and legacy specialist. And happy holidays, everybody. Some happy, some not so happy for some people. Today, we welcome you to our final conversation of this year. As Lisa and I gather during this holiday season, it's a time that's often filled with both joy and reflection about the year. Um, And so we want to focus on something universal here to everybody, but yet deeply personal in finding and maintaining peace in our hearts, no matter what the situation is. So today we're going to explore how peace sustains us through all of life journeys, especially during challenging transitions like end of life experiences. So, whether you're facing these circumstances personally, you may be supporting a friend or loved one, or simply seeking a deeper tranquility during this reflective time of year, it's our hope that you'll find something that we say today that's a little bit meaningful to you that you can carry with you through the holiday season. And it's tough. I mean, Lisa and I have both lost loved ones many years ago, and still the holiday seasons come, and still, there are triggers, right? There are triggers that don't make this time so peaceful as much as we try. So if you've listened to any of our other videos today, you know that we're not here to preach.
Mhm.
Lisa and I are walking the walk right along with you. We're here learning and helping each other grow and get through specific times in our lives. So let's talk about today, Lisa. Let's start with the nature of inner peace. Okay. Understanding peace. It's not in the absence of difficulty that we're having, but as a presence in our lives that can exist regardless of our challenges or the storm, say, that's going on all around us. Okay. And it is possible. It is possible with a little work on your part to really feel that peace when you don't want to, or you don't have that peace in your heart and in your mind. One example that I could think of is, imagine a lake, a very large lake, and on the surface, okay, it may be storming outside and the waves are crashing against the land. But think about this. If it's very deep, the water below isn't crashing on the land. The water below still remains still
It's
and
true.
remains undisturbed, right? It's not like the waves we see crashing here on Long Island and on the beaches. So similarly, we can experience outer turmoil in our lives and still maintain that center of calm and awareness within ourselves. Is that easy?
No.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I just want to add in one thing to this point. There are many days. I've lost many, many loved ones along the way. Um, Too many to list. But there are many days that I feel um, lost and dark, and I know when I'm feeling that way, and I know the things that bring me peace and calm and will help me feel better. So I may readjust my day and my schedule or not do one thing before the other, and I will go and take that time. And for me, it's reading certain things or listening to certain inspirational teachers that, help me surrender and feel peace. I know that even if I can spend a half hour doing that, it can change the course of my day. So I know that this works beyond a shadow of a doubt. Um, some people don't will just say to you, no, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That might work for you. It won't work for me, but it does. And reading or watching that video may not be the right thing for you, right? Maybe it's taking the walk. Maybe it's learning how to do some breathing exercises. There are many, maybe it's going and taking a yoga class. Many things that you could do to bring that inner peace. It's not my job to help you know what that is, and it's not Lisa's job. It's nobody's job. It's your job to figure out what that is. What is that little thing that can do it for you? Find it and keep it in your back pocket at all times and use it when necessary, right? This is you nodding your head, Lisa. So this
Oh,
is making a little sense for you too.
yes, but different things for me. I'm a social person, so I reach out to a friend or to a relative, or I like talking. That's me. So
Hmm.
instead of the solitary things that some people do, for me, it's, more of describing my emotions and saying, I feel really sad about this now, or that helps me. But not everybody,
It's funny though, but it's funny because I used to be that same person. I used to have to pick up the phone. I used to have to vent my situation and tell me what you think. And I used to be that exact person. I don't know what's happened. My course has changed a little bit over the years. And my journey is not wanting to reiterate it now. My journey is more about finding that calm and peace and quiet in my life. So I've changed. I know exactly what you're saying, though. I was always that person. Depending on where you are in your journey, right? There's different people we can be. We change every day. Our skin, our hair, everything changes every day,
that's right.
you know.
Yeah.
So that this is just one example. And today we're going to talk about a few different examples of helping you to incorporate peace into emotional times or situations. Do you want to take that away?
Sure. I've got two right now, and I'll describe them. And each one is very challenging. So, two people in my life are lingering between life and death, and one is 98 and one is 71. The 98-year-old, who I've mentioned many times, is really living a very low quality of life. She really can't do much for herself at all. She is in she's just not happy. Very, very hard to see her that way. We've spent so many years being together. I'm almost like a daughter to her, etc. So she's really in that in-between stage. Very difficult for me to watch this and see no enjoyment. Even when I walk in the room, there used to be a smile. There used to be the flowers that I would bring that, sort of gave her. There's really not much that gives her much happiness. It's real hard when I leave. She gets very upset. She doesn't want to be alone, but it's a very, very hard state of affairs right now for her. And I just wish her to be at peace. So I am leaving, and I won't be back for 2 months, and I don't know if I will see her again. And my final visit is on Friday. And so coming to terms with the fact that I may not ever see her again and what I can leave for her since I'm leaving, though she doesn't with dementia, she doesn't know time, so she doesn't know how long it might be or anything like that. I have ordered a little bear that is a lot that has the ability for me to put a picture of the two of us on the belly, and then it has a little recorder. And there's a song that she and I sing, and I'm going to record that song and I'm going to give it to her on Friday. And so that's my piece with where she is in her life and wishing that she just goes in peace. But I'm leaving part of myself. I spent a long time trying to figure out what that would be for her. Um, so this is my piece, and the
That's
rest
your
will
way of
live.
finding
That's
peace.
right.
Let's
That's right.
let's
That's
talk
right.
about and that was a great story and a great recommendation for people to do something different,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like I said, everybody has something different that helps them find the peace. Let's talk about your other friend in a minute.
Mhm.
I just wanted to talk about what that true inner peace feels like. And it, it comes from having to face our difficult feelings and not suppressing them.
Correct.
When we suppress them, that we'll never find the true peace. So, real, genuine peace, it embraces the reality of the situation with courage, right? Rather than turning away from what's painful. So, in your situation, you're seeing the reality of it. You're seeing that you may not be back to visit your friend again. So you're doing something that can internally give you some peace before you leave her for the last time. You're embracing that. You're not in denial about it. Um, I find this a lot with families, especially with somebody with a terminal diagnosis. The family wants to just brush things under the carpet and not talk about it because, God forbid, you say the word dying, the person dying is going to go off the rails. Well, that does not happen. The person dying usually wants to talk about these things, but doesn't want to burden their family. So it's a no-win situation, but it's only when you can really open and you can be open, honestly open, and acknowledge the grief of the situation that's happening right now within the family, or whether it's one person and them, that really you can find genuine moments of peace together and connection during the end of life. And we try and talk about this a lot because many families just they don't get that connection, and then they're so sorry later on. They're so sorry. That's one of their regrets. Why couldn't I have said this, or why couldn't I have done this? But you can. So don't let those things slip away. And these things will bring you so much more peace, and for them, if they're still talking at that point. End of life is tricky. I've had clients that speak to me the day that they pass and take their last breath. I have other clients that stop speaking a couple weeks, beforehand.
Right.
So it all depends.
Right. Mhm.
Um, there's different rituals, right? That you can bring into play, and simple practices that anchor us to that peace and tranquility when circumstances feel overwhelming. And some of those are the reading. One person may read a Bible, another person may read a book of affirmations that feels good to them, or listen to audiobooks, or exercise, or get out there in nature in a park. And I know these are a lot of the things that you've done with your friend. We spoke about that in the last video or two about the ritual of the restaurant, and how important it was for you to go there and,
And I,
excuse me, making all the arrangements and everything.
but
But life changes. So if you want to just briefly mention
yeah,
what happened with that.
yep. So because she's been such a long time customer, I was able to get them to deliver. They do not deliver. I was able to get them to deliver. And the person who came to the door was the customer experience manager who I've spoken with in the past. And she arranged everything. She arranged
Wow.
the meal. She appeared at the door personally. It was so emotional. And meantime, my friend was unable to eat much. But the fact that I had done that, I felt really good about, you know, at least trying um, to do whatever I could. And I kept saying that it was Union Square, that it was her restaurant. And then, of course, I wrote an incredible thank you note. And I
Yeah.
see the person who owns this restaurant and many others. And I got a very nice note back. But that was huge. I went to a lot of
Right.
trouble, but you have to
And
change.
things don't always work out, and you have to
Right.
roll with it,
That's right.
right? You have
That's
to
right.
roll with the flow.
That's right.
So you managed to do that very well. Um, you know, Something else I want to add in though, that can change the dynamics of whether it's an end of life experience or any other chaotic, challenging experience with a family member, It might not always, be an end of life situation, but is to really, you can change the dynamic by being present in the situation. And I do have to remind myself of doing that all the time. But by fully being present with whatever's happening in your family's world at the moment, being present with ourselves, being present for everybody in that room, it it does form a foundation of peace during any kind of challenging time. And most people don't do that though. Most people, they don't know how to be present in that moment. And that's when the emotions come out. That's when the guilt comes out. That's when the words are spewed back and forth. A lot of families can't stand each other. Face it, they don't get along with one another. If you have a family that everybody just so loves each other, that's wonderful and it's rare. So embrace that. But there are many family situations where the dynamics are not always good. So to be present, be calm, and feel that and know you're in that situation. My new goal is, I think I mentioned it in another video recently, I think, Lisa, where I talked about being present and really being present, not just saying, "Oh, you look good. How's the weather? How's school been?" But to really sit next to the person, to reach out and grab their hand or touch their hand and tell them how good they look today or what you always admired the most about them. And I have been practicing that. I just did that recently with my nephew. And I got to tell you, it does change the mood and it breaks open relationships and helps them be more beautiful than
It's
they would have just having this casual conversation that we all seem to have, especially during holidays, right?
great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just and then if you're with somebody who's maybe in you're by their bedside, okay, and it is the end of life, it can still be beautiful. You can hold their hand.
I do.
You can focus completely on that connection, even if they can't speak.
Yep.
Sure, we can go in the room and sit in the chair in the corner and scroll through Facebook and text your friend and let them know you're at the hospital again, or spending time with your aunt because your uncle couldn't be there, or, you can do all those things, but that's not being present in the moment. So if there are no words to be had, focus on the connection that you have had in the past. You loved each other. You're not just a babysitter here in this situation. And that in itself will give you a profound feeling of peace inside. So even these wordless moments with each other can transcend even, any need for conversation between one another. It can mean wonders. And we don't know, if they feel you holding their hand or they say that listening is one of the last things
Yes.
to go.
Yep.
So I believe that.
Me too.
I believe that.
Me too. Me too. So the second situation is my friend who's been ill with a very long-term disease called Huntington's disease. And he's my age. And he's been bedridden and it's tough. It's been a tough time, 16 years worth so far. And he had pneumonia and he ended up 911 call and went to the hospital. And then it seemed like my friend's wife was told he was going to die. And that's what they thought. And then he seemed to revive. And then he goes to a hospice situation and seems like he's unresponsive. And then he is responsive. And then he's asking because he's hungry. And anyway, it's a roller coaster. That's basically what it is. And it's been a roller coaster for her. And her daughter has the same disease and she's much younger. So just even knowing how to help them. I've told her to talk to him. I held his hand. We talked about the old times. You know, he was trying to tell me something and I couldn't. It was really hard to understand him. And at one point he referred to my husband. So he must have been thinking about him. Um, and he's been gone a long time. So, um, it's this is really, really hard. That kind of long-term disease and the inability to really communicate much. And he's lingering. He's not there and not there. He's just in between at this point, in between. And it's very, very hard.
And it's a tough situation for you, for anybody in your shoes also, because sometimes you're not the final decision maker in things that are happening around you. And I think that it's important for you, Lisa, in this situation, is to release expectations, to release whatever you're expecting or hoping for, that hospice will come in or that hospice shouldn't be there. Or I think it's important to release certain expectations. And that will, just by doing that, will help you find more peace within yourself. And, just by letting go of how we think things should be,
So what will
or
be. That's like,
shouldn't be.
yeah, what will be. That's probably part of it, you know?
Right. Because, and that's a lot of us like to control things,
This is definitely,
like to control things. And I never realized that until the last few years that I do like to control things and I want it done right until I started getting in the car with my son and he says, no, he'll drive. Now, my son has been driving for 13, 14 years now. Okay. I'm grabbing onto the handle of the car. I'm taking deep breaths. I'm like, and he says, I'm driving normal. Will you stop it? He would say, stop. I'm doing the speed limit. Or, oh, I'm only doing 75. Do you see they're going 80? There's some feeling of lack of control that I have as a passenger only with him, not with my other son. I feel completely fine. Not with my friends who I'll get in the car with. I feel completely fine. But sometimes, I don't know, we just have to release those expectations. And I know if I ever get into the car with him, I know what to expect. And you just have to let it go and you have to surrender some things. That was a bad example. I'm sorry, because that's a little bit different. It's dangerous, I think. I have to protect myself. I don't need danger in my life. But honestly, especially with people that other friends, other family members, you might not have the wheel of the car. You might not have that say
it's
or
true.
that control. Okay. So by releasing what should and shouldn't be, you can offer your opinion if asked, but don't do it in a strong defensive way, because if you want to feel the peace, you need to know how to surrender to that, especially during end of life journeys,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
I do want to support my friend. So,
Hmm.
I mean, she's going through a lot, and I just want to be there for her and do whatever she needs. And it's very, very hard what she's going through, watching her husband and being there for her daughter. So, very hard time. And of course, the holidays. I mean, the holidays make it worse. You're thinking that the holidays should be a wonderful time. And
They're
here's,
not always.
yeah,
I write an article every month for an online magazine, and that it's all about positivity. So as I was afraid to talk about any kind of negativity or sadness at all. But that's my profession as an end of life doula. So what the theme of the article was, I just wanted to acknowledge people, whether you're a caregiver, a parent, a friend, a grandparent. I wanted to acknowledge the people that aren't having a happy and glorious and joyful holiday season,
yeah,
because there are so many people that are not.
yes.
Okay, so I wanted to acknowledge them and that it's okay. You may not be jumping into, not everybody will have a New Year's Eve party
Right.
and jump into New Year's Day feeling that this is a time for renewal and regrowth and what are our goals? And no, that's not everybody. Some people are dealing with a loved one who will die in the next couple weeks or the next couple months, and it doesn't matter that it's holiday time.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
and that was a little difficult to write,
No, that's
but
very important because people
yeah,
feel so alone in their situations. That's a wonderful opportunity to really help people feel like, wow, there are others who may feel this way or going through this as well. That's wonderful that you did that.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. But
sure.
we definitely have to surrender when it comes to certain situations and certain, with family members or friends, and it can be exhausting to resist these situations, to be mad about choices that were made. Okay. But then you really have to think about you. Would you rather feel tense and angry and talk to all your friends about how they're handling it over there and at that house and the arguments, or would you feel better letting things go and knowing that it is what it is and finding the peace for yourself? I think is really important. You can only help yourself.
That's
You
true.
can't help anybody else change their dynamics or the way they feel about things.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah. You know, another thing that we can do, even if your loved one is living or not living, it's really about the life that you've spent together and the happy times you think of, right?
Yep,
Rarely do we think, I mean, I had ups and downs with my husband. Honestly, I don't think about the bad times.
I know.
You just don't. I think that's part of being human. They're really gone. They really took their last breath, and you feel bad. And I naturally don't think about the bad times. I think about the good times.
Yep,
I think about the good times. So finding peace in memories, I think, is really important. Um, Again, whether they're here or whether they're gone. And one thing that I read recently is really nice. If your loved one's still here, or your great or your grandparent is 98 years old and healthy, it doesn't matter. We're all lucky enough if we're lucky enough to live till 100, right? So there are things that you can do right now. And I read about, we've all heard of memory jars,
yeah.
right? And to put some of our memories in there. And you could do that thinking about your grandmother who passed away a couple months ago. You could do that for yourselves and for the family, um, to talk about stories and memories, but this is also something that you can do while they're here now. While they're here now. And the fun part about that is that you could put a big giant mason jar out with little cards or pieces of paper, okay? And through your first half of your celebration, let everybody know what it is, have a pen there, and at different times, let everybody fill out a quick memory for them of something that they did with grandma, person who's sitting in the living room right now. This is a way to honor her and respect our family and our ancestors. And she still will be our ancestor pretty soon at 98 years old, right? But to put some of those memories down on there. And then during the second half of your celebration, have one person now have one of the little kids choose a memory out of a jar and read about how Stephen loved when grandma took him to the market and bought him a whatever, when he was 5. Okay, the children can write these memories too. But that story will lead to another story that leads to another story that invokes laughter and memories. And how nice is is doing that while grandma's still there in the room? Because mark my words, she'll make sure she clears up anything that's wrong or any mistakes and says it didn't happen that way. And that's the fun part of it. So that's something that you could do, to bring peace into family dynamics, is to create memories like that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Love that.
Yeah.
Traditions do that too.
Yeah.
Traditions talk about that, traditions of
Hmm.
food or things that are always done. All that also solidifies. that place.
Sharing any kind of stories.
Yeah.
Sharing any kind of stories, you know. Um, after my husband passed, at first, the first few years, I'm constantly talking about him because I want my boys to remember when daddy said this, or daddy wouldn't like that, or remember when we did this together, and I constantly did it. And of course, it slowed down. It's over 10 years now. So that has slowed down a little bit. But you know what's really cool? When I go somewhere or we're with other family members or I'm with my nieces and nephews and somebody says, "Do you remember when Uncle Jim used to do that when we were little?" He would open his legs because he was 6'9" almost and spread his legs and make us run through his legs and he would jump over our bodies and we were scared that he would, and everybody's laughing. And I love when other people bring up the memories, not just my boys and I. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind also
Hmm.
when you're visiting people who've lost loved ones. You know, what did I read something recently, Lisa, and it was something about how not to say to somebody, um, "Oh, I'm sorry for your loss."
Hmm.
I heard that your husband passed. I'm sorry for your loss. Instead, mindfully being present and sincerely say, "Wow, but how are you feeling? And tell me about him. Tell me a little more about him. I didn't know much about him." Or what was he like? Or tell me your best memory about him. Wow, boy, will that reshape that conversation.
So
Then I'm
we've
sorry
been
for your
doing
loss.
right. So we've been doing that in the hospice thing. We've been talking about him because he went all the way out to Montauk. He used to ride a lot, his bicycle and stuff. And we were talking about a trip and how they were trying to find him because they were going to meet him out there. And he had stopped at some place and got a beer or whatever it was. And they had gone all the way there, couldn't find him on their way back. So we were doing that. And we've been doing that with him. And the yacht trips.
That's wonderful.
So, yep. Yeah. And again, just like you said, I think that hearing goes last. And I do believe that he has heard these stories and inside it. Hopefully it,
That's wonderful. That's
yep,
wonderful.
yeah.
Another thing I don't want you to forget is that when you are dealing with an end of life situation, no matter where you are, and that could be at a hospice facility, it could be in the hospital, a nursing home, assisted living, it could be in your home. Okay. Create a peaceful environment. I'm really big on this because I love ambiance myself. If you saw all the fairy lights in my living room that I put on at night this time of year, and I keep them out all year long too, because they give me a feeling of warmth and hugs. Okay. So that's important. Your physical surroundings, that can create an inner peace or tranquility, in particular when it comes to healthcare or an end of life situation, because not only will it embrace you and the person who's hurting or ill or traveling towards their end of life, but for whoever enters that room, for whoever comes to visit and sees them.
So my mom was in the hospital for 7.5 months and couldn't seem to get out. And my kids drew drawings and they were all over that room, all over. And I just took
Yeah.
out the menorah that they had made because she was there during the holidays. And they had
Hmm.
made it out of plaster. And I brought that out during the holidays, to
Yeah.
remember her and stuff. But yeah, we did a lot of those things. I also had somebody who was a psychologist, I believe, and she did guided meditation for my mom to keep
Hmm.
her really calm. Um,
Now, so there are many, many guided meditations on YouTube now.
mhm.
Okay, so jump on YouTube. One of the most beautiful ones that I found, uh, higher, having a brain cramp. Anyway, higher, hire something. Anyway, her name is Jess, Jess Shepherd. So you just need to put her name in the YouTube. And beautiful, beautiful. And she does them for different reasons. So you have to look through her channel and find what's right for you. Absolutely beautiful and peaceful. But the point here is that you can create peace and make it a tangible thing in your surroundings with your lighting, with soft music, with anything that you can create, warm, fuzzy blankets, a couple pillows on the chair, anything that you can think of creating to make that space filled with peace and gentleness is really, really important for you and for everybody else.
Yeah. And by the way, that was 25 years ago. So, so much has changed in 25 years.
Yeah,
You did a lot
yeah,
of visualization, things like that, but they didn't have what they have now that will help people. So
right.
they've come a long way.
Right. And sometimes you can also find that in these chaotic, toxic relationships that we see in families, sometimes by doing things like the things that we're talking about today, you know, people can find themselves bonding a little bit better
Mm.
and creating harmony a little bit better. When the tone in the room is a little bit softer, we're respecting one another and we're honoring the person that we're with. And you can demand that. You can demand that. If you're the closest to your loved one and you're there with them all day and night, you can demand that they take their shoes off before they walk in the room. You can demand that they talk a little bit more quieter when they come in the room or don't come and visit. This is how it is, and this is how you know. Yes, I have nature sounds and birds tweaking in the background because that's what mom loved.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can do these things, but you have to really give it some thought and create that kind of experience. But definitely, all of this can create harmony within toxic relationships as well. And hopefully, through this, can address some, old wounds that you may have had in the relationships. And I'm not looking at the world through my rose-colored glasses, if that's what you're thinking at the moment, okay? Because I do know too that after the situation, things can get worse. Sometimes people don't speak anymore,
That's right. That's right.
right? With
Yep.
toxic behaviors and in relationships. So all
Sure.
you can do is find peace for yourself and do the best that you can for yourself and for everybody involved.
That's true.
So, Lisa, I know you're going through a hard time with a few important people in your life. My suggestion to you is to go back and listen to our 150 videos where we've addressed almost every situation now. Like and follow them and share with your friends, Lisa. I'd appreciate that.
I will.
We've been gaining some momentum, and I think that we are helping the world a little bit each week.
Yeah, I believe
Um,
that.
Lisa's going away for a little while, so we're going to catch up in a few weeks. We'll give you a little break through the holiday and the new year, but we'll be back again. If you have any topics or themes that you feel maybe we haven't discussed, tell me more about this. Please leave a comment, reach out to us. All our information's at the top of our screensavers here, and we'll be happy to address it because we love to learn and grow, and that's our whole mission to be here.
We
Lisa
also,
and I don't make money off our
that's
videos.
right. That's right.
We do this to just serve, and help the best that we know how.
And there are a lot of experts out there. And so we're also
Oh,
open to
sure.
guests who would like to come on and talk about what they do or what they're involved with or anything like that.
Exactly. We'll be happy to talk with anyone. Lisa does some grief counseling. I offer a lot of legacy work. I do this before a person passes, mostly, although I've just started to do a couple after a family member's passed, and they come out just as beautiful as well. But as we close today's conversation, Lisa and I just want to acknowledge again that we're not the experts.
Mhm.
Okay. There are many experts with credentials that we don't have, um, that can offer better advice. But the more that you know and grow and learn from, a little piece from everybody can help you no matter what situation you're in. So we want to acknowledge that peace is not something that any one of us can achieve once and it lasts forever.
Mhm.
Okay. It's a practice, a returning practice. It's a way of being that you can cultivate moment by moment and day by day. And whatever circumstance that you find yourself in during this holiday season, we hope that some of these reflections that we've talked about today, you can springboard off of and maybe carry with you as a reminder that peace remains possible even in life's most challenging events. And we really, and this comes from my heart and Lisa's as well. We want to express our deepest gratitude for allowing us to be part of your journey this year. And each time you've listened or liked us or shared, um, or applied something within your own family dynamics from any of our conversations, you've honored us with your trust. And we want to thank you for that. So we look forward to this new year. We remain committed to walking alongside you, through your own journey and explore these profound aspects of being a human being and having these human experiences together. So until we meet again, may we find it's a way to your heart, and maybe you can find a place in your heart to bring peace in, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we want to thank you for being a part of our community. And we really look forward to continuing the journey together in the coming year.
We do. Well said, Susan. And it is always a pleasure. The work that we do together and the way we do it. And each of us have had our own experiences, but we share so much in common. And that's what we want people to understand, that you may be different in how you do it or how you see it, but we all share so many common feelings and similarities and challenges in life. And so it's really a pleasure doing this with you and walking alongside of you, Susan. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. We'll see you next time.
We will. Take care, everyone.